The primary goal for the person-centered planning meeting is to assist the person in the development of a plan that will support the person's ability to achieve the life they want to lead. In doing so, we need to get to know the person and their support system really well. Listen to their preferences and choices, strengthen their circle of support, and then offer supports and services as needed. When planning for a meeting, bring certain tools. Bring a large sheet of paper, an easel or flip chart for taking notes. Use markers to write things down and tape to hang paper on the walls. It is really important to use these tools for a couple of reasons. Writing things down where everyone can see helps to keep them engaged in the meeting. It helps to keep both the participants and the facilitator organized. It also signifies to the consumer and their allies that this is not a typical counseling session. It is a meeting with an agenda and a specific purpose. Always thank everyone for coming. This is an easy step to forget. Person-centered planning can be very emotional for the participants. It requires commitment to the person and should be publicly honored. Then provide an explanation about what is going to happen in the meeting, similar to the conversation that is had with the consumer in the pre-planning meeting. State that the purpose of the meeting is to assist the person in defining their hopes and dreams, get input from the group regarding their hopes for the person, and to begin a plan for achieving goals that will bring that person closer to their dreams. Next, facilitate a conversation about ground rules for the meeting. Ground rules will help the meeting stay focused and manageable. Always make sure to include rules about making sure that everyone has a chance to talk, not interrupting one another, reserving judgment about one another's ideas, and keeping everything confidential. Also, ask that if participants make a commitment to do an action in the meeting, that they follow through. As the rules are being decided by the group, they are recorded on a large sheet of paper and posted in a spot where everyone can see them. Then, if you need to recall the rules, they are easily accessed by the group. The next step can be really powerful for all of the participants. Ask the group to think about the person's strengths, what they really admire or love about the person. Then, in a round-robin fashion, ask each group member to share a word that describes the person's strengths. Ask that we continue to go around and around in the circle until all of the ideas are spoken. If a person can't think of anything, they are allowed to say pass, and the conversation continues to go around the circle. As people share the person's strengths, record what they say on your easel paper. You will typically end up with a full sheet of paper filled with wonderful statements about the person. Then post this on the wall where everyone can see, and tell the group that the person's strengths are going to remain the focus of the meeting. When you start to identify strategies for accomplishing goals, the strengths list can be very helpful. At the end of a particular person-centered planning meeting, an evaluation was conducted. When the person was asked how he felt about the meeting, he said the hardest part of the meeting was hearing all the good things about myself. After the strengths discovery process, turn to the consumer and ask what hopes and dreams they have for themselves. There are different questions that you can ask to get to this information, such as, what are your hopes and dreams for the future? Or, if you were doing what you want, how would you like to spend your time? Who would you be with? If a consumer has difficulty identifying hopes and dreams, use how, what, who, where, and when questions to help get to the information. When the person shares their hopes and dreams, then ask for clarification and expansion. For example, if the person says they want to go back to school, ask if there are any particular areas of study that interest them. Also ask the group participants if they can recall hopes and dreams that the person has shared with them. If participants identify a hope or dream, ask the person if this is still relevant to them and if they would want to include this as a current hope. Record all of the hopes and dreams on easel paper, and again post them in a centralized place for all to view. The next step is to identify goals that might move the person closer to achieving their hopes and dreams. Take each hope and dream individually and ask the person, What is a goal that you can set today that would help you move toward your dream? The answers to the hopes and dreams question and the inquiry about goals will vary from person to person depending on the individual. For example, during a meeting, a consumer said that her dream was to become a children's author. She had enjoyed writing and working with children prior to developing depression and drug addiction. When asked to identify a goal that would move her closer to this dream, she stated, "I would like to take a writing course." This was a wonderful, positive goal for this person, and she said that she had never discussed it in other types of treatment planning meetings that were always solely focused on stabilizing her depression. She stated that she knew she had to continue her depression treatment in order to reach her goal as a writer, but that relief from depression was just a starting point. Once the person has identified goals, ask the person and participants to identify barriers that might stop them from achieving their goals. Record all identified barriers on the easel paper. Based on each identified barrier, ask the group to brainstorm strategies that might help break through the identified barrier. Oftentimes, family members and friends are willing to provide assistance that the person never dreamed of asking for. The group should identify what services and supports will be necessary to support the plan. A strong plan should include strategies involving the person, their allies, and the professional service system. As strategies are identified, clarify who is going to do what action. Ask the participants for a target date of completion and write this on the easel paper. Also, remind the group that when they commit to an action, there is an expectation that they will follow through. Once the consumer and allies have identified their hopes and dreams, goals, potential barriers, and action plans, summarize the information that has been collected with the group. Ask them to make any corrections that might have been missed in the recording. If the group is okay with the plan, advise them that it will be written up using the agency's documentation forms and will be presented to the consumer for review. The last step is to evaluate how the meeting went. Did everyone feel listened to and understood? Did we identify all of the person's most important hopes and dreams? Does the plan feel workable? Ask the group if they can reconvene at some point and evaluate how things are going, and if possible, set a date in the meeting. Also emphasize that the person-centered plan is a living document and can be redone at any time. If it is discovered that alterations need to be made, we do not have to wait a year for that to happen. A meeting should be reconvened whenever the consumer desires, and particularly if circumstances and priorities change and dictate changes to the plan. In summary, the goal of person-centered planning is to help to support a life lived on an individual's terms. If we remember that each person has the right to identify what is important to them and how they want to live, our practice will support their choices.